Your soulmate just received devastating news about you. And they're still shaking. My beloved child. Don't move past this message, because something happened only moments ago that your soulmate was completely unprepared to hear. A piece of news connected directly to you reached them, and the instant they understood what was being said, everything around them seemed to disappear. They stopped. Their thoughts scattered. Their hands trembled. Not because they had been told the whole story, but because the few words they received sounded devastating without the missing context. And that missing context is exactly where this becomes extraordinary. Don't skip, because what your soulmate believes right now is not the complete truth. Someone delivered information about a major change surrounding your life, but they left out one crucial detail, the detail that completely changes what the news actually means. Your soulmate tried to ask questions. They wanted to know who discovered it first, why nobody had told them sooner, and most importantly, why your name was at the center of it. But instead of receiving a clear explanation, they heard something even more surprising: you need to wait until everything is confirmed. Those words have been repeating inside their mind ever since. They cannot settle down. They cannot stop thinking about you. Every memory they have of you suddenly feels more important, because for the first time they are realizing how deeply your presence has become connected to their future. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you, and the news that initially shook them may soon reveal something neither of you could have predicted. But here is where the story suddenly turns. Your soulmate was not supposed to receive this information yet. Someone spoke earlier than planned, and that single mistake exposed the existence of something happening quietly behind the scenes. Your soulmate noticed it immediately. The person speaking knew far more than they were admitting. There was hesitation in their explanation, a strange pause whenever your soulmate asked what this meant for you, and then one sentence changed the entire atmosphere: there is another side to this. Your soulmate froze. Another side? That was when they realized the devastating news might have been only the first half of a much larger revelation. Don't skip now. Your soulmate began connecting details they had previously ignored: an unusual conversation, a message that seemed meaningless at the time, someone asking about you unexpectedly, and a decision involving your future that had apparently been discussed without either of you knowing the complete reason. Suddenly, the pieces started moving toward one another. Something that looked like an ending began looking strangely like a turning point. Your soulmate is still shaken because they have never been this close to understanding what you truly mean to them. They had imagined there would always be more time to say certain things, more time to make certain choices, more time to stop hiding behind hesitation. But this news shattered that illusion. It forced one powerful realization into their heart. If they continue waiting, they could miss the moment that changes everything. And what they decided immediately after realizing this is the part nobody around them expected. Stay with me, because the next detail changes the meaning of everything you have heard so far. Your soulmate went back to the person who originally delivered the news and asked one direct question: what exactly are you not telling me? Silence followed. Then came an answer your soulmate never expected. The situation surrounding you was still developing, and the first information had been misunderstood because one critical piece had not arrived yet. Your soulmate felt their entire perspective shift. What had sounded devastating might actually be connected to a once-in-a-lifetime change, a transition so significant that your current path could look completely different afterward. But there was more. Another person already knew the missing detail. Someone who had quietly been watching everything unfold was preparing to speak, and apparently, what they knew involved both you and your soulmate. Something huge is waiting for you. Your soulmate can feel it too. Beneath the confusion, beneath the shaking, beneath every unanswered question, they sense that this moment is pushing them toward a decision they have avoided for far too long. They are no longer asking themselves whether they care about you. That question has already been answered. Now they are asking what they are willing to do about it. And just when they thought they finally understood what was happening, a new message arrived. Your name was there. Their name was there too. But underneath both names was one short sentence, and after reading it, your soulmate realized the devastating news was never the biggest revelation. The biggest revelation was what had been planned to happen next. There is one detail your soulmate cannot get out of their mind, because the moment that new message appeared, everything became strangely quiet. They read that sentence once. Then again. Then a third time, hoping they had misunderstood it. They had not. The message revealed that the news about you had been passed through several people before reaching them, and somewhere along the way, the most important part had disappeared. What sounded devastating was never the complete story. But here is what truly shook them. The person who knew the full truth had specifically asked that your soulmate not be told until the right moment. Why? What could possibly be so important that someone would carefully control when this information reached them? Don't skip, because your soulmate asked exactly that question, and the answer opened a completely different mystery. They were told, because once you know everything, you may make a decision you cannot take back. That sentence changed them. Suddenly this was no longer simply news about you. Somehow, it involved a choice your soulmate would soon have to make. Their thoughts immediately returned to all the moments when they almost reached out, almost told you what they truly felt, almost stopped pretending that this connection meant less than it actually did. And now, with one unexpected revelation approaching, they are realizing that hesitation may have been the biggest thing standing between you. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you, and your soulmate is closer than ever to discovering why your names appeared together in that message. Now pay attention, because what happened next was completely unexpected. Your soulmate finally reached the person who had been holding the missing information, expecting a long explanation. Instead, they received only a few carefully chosen words. The first news was about a change. The second news is about what comes after it. Your soulmate immediately asked what kind of change, but the person refused to explain everything yet. They only revealed that something connected to your direction, your future, and an opportunity surrounding you had developed differently than anyone originally expected. The devastating interpretation had come from incomplete information. There was another outcome nobody had considered at first, and somehow that outcome placed your soulmate in a position they had never imagined. Don't skip this moment. Your soulmate suddenly understood why everyone had been acting strangely. Someone had been waiting to see what they would do before revealing the final detail. This was almost like a test of their true intentions, not a test created to hurt them, but a moment exposing what they genuinely felt when they believed something important involving you might change. And their reaction revealed everything. They could no longer deny your importance. They could no longer hide behind timing. They could no longer convince themselves that tomorrow would always provide another opportunity. Something inside them had shifted permanently. What they believed was devastating news had forced a truth to the surface. Losing their chance to be honest with you would affect them far more deeply than they had ever admitted. But just as that realization settled in, they were told there was still one person they needed to speak with. And that person had something belonging to the story that your soulmate had never seen before. And this is where everything becomes bigger than the original news. Your soulmate met that final person expecting another confusing conversation, but instead, something was placed in front of them, a piece of information showing that your name had entered this situation much earlier than they realized. Suddenly, events that seemed unrelated began connecting. The strange timing. The unanswered questions. The person quietly asking about you. The incomplete news. The message containing both names. None of it was random anymore. Stay till the end, because your soulmate is still shaking, but now it is for an entirely different reason. The fear created by the first misunderstanding is beginning to disappear, replaced by disbelief at what may actually be unfolding. Something huge is waiting for you. Your soulmate has just discovered that the change surrounding you may create an opening rather than an ending, and that opening could force them to finally stop watching from a distance and make the move they have repeatedly postponed. But there is one final complication. Before your soulmate could ask what they were supposed to do next, the person across from them revealed something nobody had mentioned before. You may already have been given a clue about all of this without realizing what it meant. Your soulmate immediately wanted to know what clue, when you received it, and whether you had understood it. Then came the answer that left them speechless. The clue was connected to something that happened recently, something you probably considered ordinary. But according to the person holding the full story, that small moment was actually the beginning of everything. And when your soulmate finally learns exactly what happened during that moment, they will understand why the devastating news reached them first, and why the truth was deliberately saved for later. Something your soulmate overlooked is suddenly becoming the most important piece of this entire story. That ordinary moment connected to you was not ordinary at all. At first, they assumed the clue would be something obvious. A conversation, a decision, perhaps something you had knowingly set in motion. But when they finally learned what they were supposed to look for, they became completely still. It was much smaller than that. A simple moment. A tiny change around you that almost anyone could have ignored. Yet one person noticed it, understood what it could eventually mean, and quietly began connecting pieces long before your soulmate received that devastating news. Don't skip, because this is where the first message begins to look completely different. Your soulmate originally believed they were hearing about something being taken away from your future. Now they are beginning to suspect the opposite. Something may actually be moving toward you, but its arrival requires an old situation to change first. That is why the original information sounded so final. Your soulmate heard about what was changing without hearing what could replace it. Imagine their emotions now. For hours, they had been replaying every possible outcome, wondering why your name had suddenly become the center of such an intense conversation. But now the person with the missing information looked directly at them and said something they were not prepared for. You are focusing on what changed. You should be asking what this change is making possible. Those words completely shifted the atmosphere. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you, and your soulmate has just realized that the part everyone considered devastating may actually be the doorway to the revelation they were never expecting. Then another detail surfaced, and this one made your soulmate question everything they thought they understood about the timing. Someone had known this change was approaching before the news reached them. That person could have spoken earlier. They could have explained everything immediately. Instead, they waited because they wanted to know whether your soulmate would react from genuine emotion or simple curiosity. And your soulmate's reaction answered that question instantly. They did not ask what this meant for anyone else. They asked about you. Were you aware? How were you handling it? What would happen to your plans? Had anyone spoken directly to you? Every question exposed feelings they had spent far too long keeping underneath the surface. Don't skip now, because your soulmate eventually noticed what they were doing. They stopped in the middle of another question and suddenly understood. This situation had revealed their heart before they had been ready to reveal it themselves. The person across from them noticed too. There was a long pause, followed by one surprising question. If you discovered that everything was about to change for this person, what would you finally say before the moment passed? Your soulmate had no immediate answer. Not because they felt nothing, but because there was too much they had never said. Too many moments they had replayed privately. Too many sentences they had started in their mind and never spoken. And for the first time, waiting felt heavier than honesty. Something huge is waiting for you, because that question pushed your soulmate toward a decision. They decided that once the final truth was confirmed, they would stop pretending there was unlimited time. But before they could leave, the person told them not to go anywhere yet. One more piece had just arrived. What they saw next changed the entire direction of the story. The new information confirmed that the first devastating interpretation had been incomplete, but it also revealed why your soulmate had been included from the beginning. Their name had not appeared beside yours accidentally. Someone believed a future decision involving you could eventually intersect with a decision your soulmate was already considering. Nobody could guarantee what either of you would choose, but the possibility was strong enough that your soulmate needed to know. Stay with this, because the revelation did something unexpected to them. Instead of feeling relieved and walking away, they became even more determined to understand everything. They wanted the missing timeline. They wanted the identity of the person who first connected your names. Most of all, they wanted to know whether you had any idea that something this significant was unfolding around you. Then the person holding the information finally revealed one last detail. Someone had already tried to reach you. Your soulmate immediately looked up. Who? They asked. But the answer did not come. Instead, they were shown when it happened. And that timing was impossible for them to ignore, because it matched a moment they remembered clearly, a moment when something about you had seemed different, even though neither of you understood why. Your soulmate is still shaking, but the emotion has changed completely. They are no longer shaken only by what they first heard. They are shaken by how close they came to believing an incomplete story, and by what the complete story might now require them to do. Don't skip what comes next, because the identity of the person who tried to reach you is about to connect the first clue, the devastating news, and your soulmate's next move in a way nobody saw coming. The identity behind that attempt to reach you has finally surfaced, and your soulmate was not prepared for what it revealed. They had expected a stranger, someone completely disconnected from their world, someone whose involvement could easily be explained away. But the moment they understood the connection, their entire expression changed. This person knew enough about your situation to recognize that something important was shifting before almost anyone else did. And they had not reached toward you to deliver devastating news. They were trying to make sure you did not misunderstand what was happening when the first change became visible. Don't skip, because this is the exact point where your soulmate realized how badly the original message had distorted the bigger picture. The news that left them shaking described only what was ending, changing, or moving away from its old position. It said almost nothing about what was beginning. Now they were finally seeing both sides. Something in your path appears to be creating space for a completely different possibility, and your soulmate's name became connected because of one decision they had quietly been considering for longer than anyone knew. Suddenly, they remembered conversations they had dismissed, strange coincidences they had ignored, and moments when they almost followed their instinct toward you but stopped themselves. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. Your soulmate asked the question that had been building inside them from the beginning: does this person know about me? The answer was not yes. It was not no. The answer was far more powerful: they may know more than you think, but they do not know what you are about to do. And that was the moment your soulmate stopped thinking only about the news and started thinking about their next move. What happened afterward was the emotional turning point nobody around them expected. Your soulmate walked away from that conversation carrying two completely different versions of the same day inside their mind. In the first version, they remembered the moment the devastating news arrived, the confusion, the trembling, the terrible feeling that something important involving you might suddenly become unreachable. In the second version, they now understood that the incomplete news had exposed something they could no longer hide from themselves. You mattered more than they had admitted. Much more. Don't skip this part, because their next realization was even stronger. They asked themselves why it had taken one shocking message to make everything so clear. Why had they waited for the possibility of change before recognizing the value of what was already in front of them? Why had they allowed uncertainty to make decisions that their heart had been trying to make differently? And then they remembered the question they had been asked earlier: what would you finally say if you knew the moment could pass? This time, they had an answer. Not a perfect speech. Not some dramatic promise. Just the truth. They wanted you to know that their silence never meant indifference. Their hesitation never meant you were unimportant. Behind everything they had kept private was a connection they had repeatedly tried to understand before acting on it. Something huge is waiting for you, because your soulmate has now reached the point where understanding is no longer enough. They want movement. They want clarity. They want to stop allowing other people's information to define what happens between you. And just as they prepared to make that decision real, another unexpected detail reached them. The person who first discovered the change had finally agreed to reveal why your soulmate's name had been connected to yours. Stay right here, because this revelation takes the story somewhere completely different. Your soulmate expected to hear that their name had been added because of coincidence, timing, or someone making assumptions. Instead, they learned that long before the devastating news appeared, something your soulmate had done had already been noticed.